Hi guys, and welcome to Exciting Times with Johnny. I'm Johnny. Today we're going to read a book by Michael Bond. Pictures by R.W. Alley. It is called Paddington Bear. So there is another version of this which I saw in my computer. I saw the another read aloud of it, which is a different version with different pictures and illustrations. A little bit, the words are a little bit different, but I don't have the other version. Today we're only going to read one of the versions. But if I had the other version, I would definitely bring it here so we could compare and contrast so you guys could see. But today we're only going to read one of the versions, okay? Here we go. Paddington Bear. Mr. and Mrs. Brown met Paddington on a railway platform. In fact, that was how he came to have such an unusual name for a bear, because Paddington was the name of the station. The Browns were waiting to meet their daughter Judy when Mr. Brown noticed something small and furry half hidden behind some bicycles. "It looks like a bear," he said. "A bear?" repeated Miss Brown. "In Paddington Station? Don't be silly, Henry. That can't be." But Mr. Brown was right. It was sitting on an old leather suitcase marked "Wanted on Voyage." And as they drew near it, stood up and politely raised its hat. Good afternoon," it said. "May I help you?" "That's very kind of you," said Mr. Brown, "but as a matter of fact, we were wondering if we could help you. You're a very small bear to be all alone in the station," said Miss Brown. "Where are you from?" The bear looked around carefully, replying, "Dark as Peru. I'm not really supposed to be here at all. I'm a stowaway." "You mean you don't mean to stay? You've come all the way from South America by yourself?" exclaimed Miss Brown. "Whatever did you do for food?" Unlocking the suitcase with a small key, the bear took out an almost empty glass jar. "I ate marmalade," it said. "Bears like marmalade." Oh, I forgot to show you guys a picture of that. Miss Brown took a closer look at the label around the bear's neck. It said, quite simply, "Please look after this bear, thank you." "Oh, Henry!" she cried. "We can't just leave him there. There's no knowing what might happen to him. He can't come home and stay with us." "Stay with us?" repeated Mr. Brown nervously. He looked down at the bear. Would you like that?" he asked. "That is," he added hastily, "if you have something else planned." "Ooh, yes," replied the bear. "I would like that very much. I've nowhere to go, and everyone seems in such a hurry." "That settles it," said Miss Brown. "Now you mustn't be thirsty after your journey. Mr. Brown will buy you a nice cup of tea while I go and meet our daughter Judy." "But Mary," said Miss Brown, "we don't even have his name." Miss Brown thought for a moment. "I know," she said. "We can call him Paddington, after the station. Paddington." The bear tested it several times to make sure. "It sounds very important." Mr. Brown tried it out next. "Follow me, Paddington," he said. "I'll take you to the restaurant." Paddington had never been inside a restaurant before, and he was very excited when he saw that Mr. Brown had bought him. He was so hungry and thirsty he didn't know which to do first, eat or drink. "I think I'll try doing both at the same time if you don't mind," he announced. Without waiting for a reply, he climbed up onto a table and promptly stepped on a large cream and jam cake. Mr. Brown stared out the window, pretending he had a tea with a bear in Paddington Station every day of his life. "Henry!" cried Miss Brown when she arrived with Tooty. "What are you doing to that poor bear? He's covered in jam and cream." Paddington jumped up to raise his hat. In his haste, he slipped on a patch of strawberry jam and fell over the backwards into his cup of tea. "Oh no. I think we'd better go before anything else happens," said Miss Brown. Judy took hold of Paddington's paw. "Come along," she said. "We'll take you home and you can meet Miss Bird and my brother Jonathan." Mr. Brown led the way to a waiting taxi. "Number 32, Windsor Gardens, please," he said. The driver stared at Paddington. "Bears is extra. Sticky bears is twice as much. And make sure none of it comes off on my interior. It was clean when I set out this morning." The Browns climbed into the back of the taxi, and Paddington stood on a little tip-up seat behind the driver so that he could see where they were going. The sun was shining as they drove out of the station, and there were cars and big red buses everywhere. Paddington waved to some people waiting at the bus stop, and several of them waved back. One of the men raised his hat. It was all very friendly. Paddington tapped the taxi driver on the shoulder. "It isn't a bit like Darkest Peru," he announced. The man jumped at the sound of Paddington's voice. "Cream," he said bitterly, "all over my new coat." There was a bang, and he slid the little window behind him shut. "Oh dear, Henry," murmured Miss Brown. "I wonder if we're doing the right thing." Okay, now I'm going to read a few more pages and then I'll make a second part, okay? Fortunately, before anyone had time to answer, they arrived at Windsor Gardens. Judy helped Paddington out of the taxi, and together they went up some steps toward the green front door. "Now you're going to meet Miss Bird," said Judy. "She's looking after us. She's a bit fierce at times, but she doesn't really mean it. I'm sure you'll like her." Paddington peered at his reflection in the brightly polished letter box. "I'm sure I shall, if you say so," he replied. "The thing is, will she like me?" Okay, now we're going to read in the second part of this book because it's going to be too long. And then we're going to see how Paddington deals in Judy's and with Jonathan, which is Judy's brother, and Miss Bird, which is looking after them. And, we'll see what happens. And Mr. Brown and Mrs. Brown. Let's see if Paddington messes up in the house. Hopefully not. I'll see you in part 2. See you then.